us. We'll be waiting for other people to join in just a bit, especially Nkechi, who will be handling the whose session it is really. She's the star of the show today. I'm just here to keep you guys engaged until she gets here. So well done, well done, well done, well done. If you guys could just a little bit tell us where you're calling from. I'll start in the chat. I'm Daniel and I'm calling from, it's like a video show. I'm Daniel and I'm calling in from London. There we go. Fees would love to know where you're calling in from. Ahmad would love to know where you're calling in from. Beatrice would love to know where you're calling in from. Baker, Divine, Fumbi, Israel, Kusola, Obina, Rosalind, and there we go. Beatrice is from Lagos, Nigeria. I'm not surprised by people coming in from Lagos, Nigeria. There's always like 100 people from Lagos, Nigeria. Anyone from anywhere else? Anyone else? Anyone else? No, no. You people should engage me. Where are people calling in from? I'd love to know. Oh, there we go. Atsina, well done. Thank you, Ahmad. Nkechi, welcome, welcome, welcome. Nkechi from London. There we go. August State, Chooks. Hold on, Nkechi. Obina also from Lagos. There we go. Liquor Data. I'm very interested in that name, Liquor. There we go. Okay, so there's we were expecting a lot more people and people will join in, but because we are 4 minutes in, I'll just wait 1 extra minute, give people a chance to trickle in, and then I'll go on my usual 5 minute speech on why we're here before handing over to Nkechi to take us away. So yeah, thanks to everyone for joining from all over the world, from Katsina, Ogun, Lagos, Enugu, London. We shall begin first by sharing my screen with the crowd. And for today, I sincerely hope I've tried this and tested it multiple times. Sincerely hope that's my screen. Can we see my screen? No. Yeah, we can, but we're seeing the wrong screen. This is this screen. Yes, there we go. This screen? All right, there we go. Nice. Welcome, everyone. I can see that you can see my screen, so thank you for that. My name is Daniel. I am part of the co-founding team at Young People in Tech, YPIT. We are a community of young tech professionals like yourselves, like everyone on here today. So thanks for joining us. The artificial future is why we're here. Unsurprising, people ask all the time, why do we call it the artificial future? And the reasoning is not that far off. It is it's simply that we believe the future has changed or it's going to change. AI is here and the future is going to change, and we are strong believers in the fact that the future should change for the better. We are Africans, and we think we should get to define what that better looks like for us. Silicon Valley is not going to come down and hand us their tech. We have to be active participants in shaping what does this new future that AI has brought, what does it look like for us as Africans? And that is why we call it the artificial future. And why are we doing it? Like I said, we're doing it so that everyone here, every single one listening to me, watching this, can be active participants in shaping the future. And we have had, multiple people who say AI is like the, fourth, fifth industrial revolution, you name it. But we've had, multiple inflection points at which, there has been technology that can give us an advantage. And, as Africans, as Nigerians, maybe we've not always been at the forefront of that, but we think we should be in this case. We can be. In many instances, not always, the technology is accessible to us as consumers. But in order to be able to shape the future, we will need to also become, producers. We need to become builders. And in order to be able to become builders, we need to understand the technology. We need to know what it can do, what it cannot do. We need to know where the limits are. And we need to know that all of this, it sounds like, aspire to Maguire, but it really is very, very, very possible. The reason why we know it is possible is because there are many people that are already doing it, many people that are already at the forefront, many people that are already tackling very ambitious challenges. And the reason why we're bringing the artificial future to life is so that we can see, examples of people tackling these ambitious challenges. Every time I see things like that, the lead name is ambition to want to go on to the next thing. And so the idea here is that the artificial future reshapes what it means for us as young professionals, young tech professionals, to participate in this future. So it is why we designed this program across 3 pillars. The first of it is education, building, environmental building, and then exposure. So on the education part, we have 6 weeks of skill building webinars and workshops. And this is, I think, the 4th of the series. This is the 3rd week and the 4th workshop happening. And the idea is over these 6 weeks, we all come together to see how some people are pushing the frontier of this. There will be a lot of things that we see and that we learn in these 6 weeks that will, change how we approach, working with AI, working in AI, change how we approach the next few years in this artificial future. After the workshops, there will be 2 weekends of hackathons. So if this is the first time you're hearing about the hackathons, please, we'll drop links in the chat and all of that. Please go ahead and sign up. The hackathon is so that we all can get involved, get our hands dirty, so to speak, because, you learn by building, you learn by immersing yourself completely in a problem space. I think here you learn by immersing yourself in the future. And so that's how you get to shape the future. You get to be an active participant. And the last of it is exposure. Exposure happens at the conference that we're hosting in Lagos on June 13th, 2026 at the Civil Center. If you're here, please start making plans to show up. You should be there. There will be many. There will be AI researchers. There will be founders. There will be, senior executives from some of the coolest companies. There will be conversations where people are talking about the absolutely, most ludicrous things that they're working on in AI. All I can say is you'll be surprised. Like, I was very surprised when I started hearing these conversations, having these conversations, hearing people tuning models in their living room in Ogun State. There are people shipping in GPUs to those states so that they can do frontier research work. It's all been amazing, and the idea of this conference is to bring all of it to the forefront, expose every one of us to it. So make plans to be there, and in the meantime, feel free to check out the website, theartificialfuture.com. And this is where I hand over to Nkechi. Nkechi is, she's here. She's a product engineer at Vouchsafe. 3-4 years ago, people might have said she's a software engineer at Vouchsafe, but that changes. That has changed, and I can't wait for you all to find out why such a title change is even possible or is necessary. Things like that come to life. She's one of the most AI forward people that I know, like AI field. I've known Nkechi for a few years, and I'm happy, that people here get to learn, get to see what it means to be an active participant in shaping the world around us using technologies like AI, so that it is just one step away from shaping, the future ahead of us using AI. So this is where I pause and end my speech and hand it over to Nkechi. Thanks for the non-stop applause, by the way. I really love that energy. In the meantime, over to you, Nkechi.
Thank you. Let me switch to share my screen. All right, I'm guessing you can all see my screen right now.
Yes, we can.
Okay, fantastic. All right. So, hi, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Daniel. My name is Nkechi, and I'm going to be talking about AI-assisted development, the principles for building in this new age. So I have a few goals for this talk. I want to give you the right mindset for building in this age. And the first one is that product clarity and vision precedes building. Before you write a line of code, before you get a team together to start writing software, building something, you need to actually know what you're trying to build and have that clear so that you can build effectively. Second thing is I want you to know that you're not offloading your thinking to technology. You're instead using it as a bridge between your idea and the reality of your idea. So technology, and this includes AI, is just the bridge that takes you from idea to reality. And finally, I want to get you excited to build. I want to get you excited to say, oh, I have ideas. I can actually build this myself. Now I have the tools and the technology to be able to build this, even if you were not technical before. So for context, hi, I'm Nkechi. I'm a founding engineer building trust infrastructure at Vouchsafe. We are building infrastructure for KYC and identity that allows you to prove who anyone is. And our usual customers are banks, credit unions, essentially anyone that needs to do KYC on somebody. I used to be in investment banking, but I worked on this interesting fintech deal, and it made me realize I don't want to just sit on the sidelines doing M&A, saying, okay, this is the PowerPoint presentation that says this is a good thing to invest in. I wanted to be able to say, I see something that should exist, and I want to build it. So I quit my job. I taught myself how to code, which is why I say you don't have to be technical to want to build. I did not study computer science. I did not study software engineering. I studied business administration in Covenant University. But I realized I wanted to learn how to code. I wanted to learn how to build. So I decided to do that. And now I host conversations with technologists, apart from work, that is, where technologists come together and they talk about what they're building, what they're learning. And I also host build sessions where a group of technologists take an idea from an idea to a physical product or a working app in one day. So today we'll look at what building looks like at Vouchsafe as a product engineer, so where I work, and what it looks like on personal projects as well. Then I'll show you how building has evolved, looking at the various products I built. I'm going to show you how you can use technology like AI to extend your ability to create useful, impactful software and products. And I'll give you a few useful resources, tips, and tricks that you can use immediately, right away. So hopefully, after all this, you come away inspired and with a desire to build, because there's a hackathon coming, and you don't have to have built something before to actually participate in the hackathon. You just need the desire to build, and you need an awareness of the resources that are there that can help you. So what is building? Building is creating a product, a service, or a system that creates some perceived benefit for a target audience. And if we break it down like this, we say product, service, or system because you're just creating something that somebody finds value in. Now, that value could result in them paying you, but the point is that they find value in it, and using it gives them some sort of benefit. Building is about deciding what should exist, and then you direct resources towards making it exist. Those are the two parts of it: the clarity in what should exist, and directing your resources. And AI just changes the resources available, but it doesn't change the actual job of building. So at Vouchsafe, we're a team of 7 building complex, impactful software for identity. So this is AI in our team, in our company, has allowed us to extend our abilities and our impact as a team of just 7. And we have so many customers that if we were to actually try and do the work ourselves, or solely by ourselves, we'll be working all the time, but AI has allowed us to extend our impact. And the funny thing is that everybody on our team is now some sort of engineer. So our CEO is non-technical, but she builds dashboards and goes into our database and creates these presentations that help show our investors how we're doing. Our head of operations is also not technical, but she calls herself an operations engineer now because AI has allowed her to learn how to build internal tools for her to resolve any customer issues. So this is also to show that the benefits of technology like AI is not limited to software engineers. The impact is far-reaching. So at Vouchsafe, we don't have product managers. We're a really small team. So as a product engineer, I have to think about the users, the product, and the tech equally. So this means that every time I'm working on a piece of work, on a task, it isn't coming from somebody saying, implement this. It is us saying, we want to create this, go and get this done, Nkechi. So I start with the same question, what am I trying to get done, and not what task or what ticket was assigned to me. And so I think deeply about the task. Who are we building it for? What is this change going to do to the product? How is the customer going to use this? And once I have that clarity, I use the AI to execute. And the fact that AI has sped up execution means that I can actually think more. I have more time to think, what are we trying to build? Which is very important as a startup, because what you're doing is building something to make people use you. And you need people to use you if you want to keep existing. Apart from building new features and new stuff, as a software engineer or product engineer, you will work on a lot of bug fixes. So you're building something, things don't always work the way you expect it to work. But the approach of thinking carefully about what you're doing still applies here, because if you make a mistake, you're actually affecting people who are using your product. So this is an example of how I'd use AI at work. And maybe some of you are product engineers, software engineers, and this could help you have a useful frame for how AI is being used in an actual job. So recently, we've been relaunching our app, and this means we are changing the way we provide our services from one way to another way. Underlying that, or underneath that, means we have to change the way we store data about people or data about the customers that we're serving. So we need to do a migration to change data from one form to another. So far, I hope that's clear. So the first thing is that it starts with me doing the research, and research here means, what am I trying to do? So I'm trying to do a data migration, but what needs to change? What's the current state of it? What is the state that is going to change into? What are the different parts of the app that will need to be updated to handle this new data? I have to understand this, because this relaunch is not coming from the AI agent. This is idea generation that we as a team have sat down and said, this is what we want to exist. So this goes back to that first thinking of the idea clarity always comes before building. The second thing is that I write a precise prompt, and I'll show some examples later. I write a prompt that has details on what I know needs to be done. So I say, this is what the data looked like before, this is what it needs to look like now. You can check in this particular file, this is what happens here. I give a lot of context that helps the AI understand what needs to change. And then I put the agent in plan mode. Plan mode means that it's going to do some research and say, here's what I've come up with. Can you approve this? And I suggest this because a lot of the time you'll see assumptions are being made, and this is a step where you can review and clarify assumptions. So that's step 4, where I clarify any assumptions. And finally, the agent implements, and this is where you use the agent to execute. So this is how I use AI at work. An example is this next slide, where I've sent the agent something to look at, like something to work on, and it's now thinking. It's saying, okay, well, output files. This was for a migration script I was writing. So a migration script is just a set of instructions that tells the computer, change this data into this other format so that it can work in the new version of Vouchsafe. So it's just thinking, okay, the files will go to this place. I don't want it to overwrite anything. Now, the next question, I should clarify what something means. Oh, but the user said this. You can actually see that these LLMs, these agents are trying to figure out what you are trying to do, which is why I say you have to have that clarity. So when it's doing all this, you can guide it and say, thinking this, is this you or your AI? This is my AI, by the way. This is my AI agent thinking. So I just opened it so people could see, right? So after it's thought through my instructions, it would then say, here's a plan. It says, this is the plan of approach. I think we're going to change this, this, that, and then I can say, yes, go and do this, or I can say, no, I have some feedback to give. Right? And once I've given some feedback, it will update the plan, and if I'm happy, I get to approve. So this is a high-level pattern for using it, and we'll have like more specific examples later on. I just can't give too detailed or explicit of an example because a lot of the things I'm talking about with the agent is intellectual property. But let's go into some common misconceptions that I hear from other engineers or other people who worry about building with AI in this age. The first one is that it's not good enough. And the answer to that is that the output quality is honestly largely the result of what you put in. You need to assume that you're working with somebody new who does not know anything about what you're doing, who does not know all the context you have in your head about the product you're building, about the way it's being used, about the little quirks that you have built up in building out this product. You need to give it enough context to do the job, the same way you tell another engineer or you tell another friend to work on something. And it's important to note, you don't need to put everything into the model because models have a limited amount of space to reason with. So you need to give it enough to be precise, enough to find out solutions for itself, but not so much that it doesn't have space to actually do any thinking. The second is, I don't trust it. And that's actually a good perspective to have because this allows you to remain in the driver's seat. It allows you to remain the orchestrator who is saying, is this a good response? Is this what I want? So keep it in plan mode. Let the agents explain to you what it understands you to be asking. Don't give it permissions to change everything on your system or delete a database or to just do anything it likes. Actually use the fact that you don't trust it to execute your oversight because you are the creator and the agent is the executor. Another point I hear is it's not real engineering. And let's take a step back and say, what is engineering? Engineering is using tools to build systems that achieve a goal. And the tools have always evolved. You see, back then, people wrote in assembly code. People used punch cards to engineer, to build things. We're not using punch cards today. And would you argue that we are not really engineering? We're not really coding? You see, the tools change, but what is not changing is understanding the problem, designing a system to solve it, and making decisions under uncertainty. And when you get more certainty, you can then say, actually, this is the choice I want to make. That thinking, ideation, changing your mind, all that is the foundation that you then use engineering to create something. So also, there is actual skill in using AI in engineering as well, because you need to know when to say, actually, this is going to waste my time. I will do it myself. It's also good to know how to prompt. So these are things that you learn as you work with the AI. You get to see the good patterns and when to actually do something yourself. That leads on to my next and final point, which is I could just do it myself. And the thing is, you could just do it yourself. And that's a very good awareness to have because not every task needs AI. And the judgment, knowing when to use it, when not to use it, is a skill that comes from using it, right? So sometimes that you want to use AI, it's really good at simulating perspectives. Let's say you're working on an app and the user of the app is going to be busy moms with children under 3. You might not be a busy mom with children under 3, but you can say, what do you think a lady with 3 children under 3 would say when she uses this part of the app? What do you think her main problems are? You could use that to get that perspective. Apart from that, you can also use AI in tasks where you need to summarize a lot of information, aggregate a lot of information. When the thing you want to do will take a really long time, you can also use AI in that place. Sometimes the time that you shouldn't is ideally when you're trying to learn something, like genuinely learn something. The friction it takes to get a new idea into your head tends to help you understand it. It's why when you're trying to solve a problem and it's super hard for you to solve it, when you finally get it, you usually understand it better because that friction allows you to store things and retain it. Just asking a chatbot might make you understand the explanation it gave, but you might not be able to apply it in a different situation. So it's knowing when you can and when you should not use it. So let's look at personal projects now. December 2024, Agentic. I'm going to walk you through a few projects I've built over the past, I would say 2 years, to show you how building has evolved over the past couple of years, right? So the first one is Agentic. And this was a product I was working on to help video editing agencies manage their client relationships and deliverables. This product or this project was one that I was super passionate about. And on the right-hand side, you can just see some notes I took when I was researching. I think I spent about a month, 2 months researching going on Reddit, talking to people, seeing how the video editing agencies manage their clients, manage their workflows, but I embedded myself in the industry to actually see what needed to be built. So by the time I actually started building the front end, doing the wireframing, designing, the meaning of the word agentic had changed. It had become all about AI. But the time I actually chose the name agentic, it was supposed to mean the quality of having agency, the ability for a video editing agency to have agency. So it's interesting because it took so long, the name changed, and I decided, let me leave this alone. I'm going to focus on Vouchsafe. I'll keep building, other ideas will come. I live my life, I keep going. About a year later, I'm getting my nails done, and my neighbor does my nails, and her husband is a pest contractor. Right. So we're talking, we're catching up, and he says he really enjoys his job, but he hates the fact that he has to write reports after. And that's what brought up this idea, Inspection Reports Pro, where I would help contractors automate their site inspections and client reporting. Now, this particular project is what marked the start of my orchestration era. Up to this point, I had been using AI as a question and answer. How do I do this? How do I change this? Write this for me. But at this point, I realized, and I think the models just got that good. At this point, I realized I can actually use this to get things done. I can actually use this to create things. So this product, I built it in one day. I literally sat down in the morning or afternoon, had the idea, worked on it for a few hours at night, and I had the product on the right. So this is the workflow I used to build this. I started out with a meeting. I sat with my neighbor. I said, okay, tell me how you use your product, right? Not your product. Tell me how you do this right now. He said he goes to work, he takes pictures, he comes home, he's showing me the whole thing. I tell him, do it the way you would do it on your laptop. And I'm just watching him. I'm recording this, right? So I get this recording of him doing his workflow, and I put this into Notebook LM. Notebook LM is really good for when you want to synthesize information from a particular piece of data. So that's something I would recommend. I told Notebook LM to extract the themes, find the pain points, what are the things he's complaining about, and let's create a PRD for that. A PRD is a product requirement document, which is a requirement, all the requirements that you need for a product in a document. Once I had this PRD, I gave it to Claude. So Claude is a regular chat agent. Back then, I don't think they had Claude Code. I think it was just Claude. I gave it to Claude to generate, if you're looking for AI. Oh yeah, Notebook LM is free, by the way. So I really recommend it. I enjoy putting something in. You can put in a YouTube video, a recording of a workflow, and actually tell it to generate a podcast or a slide presentation. And that will help you think about what you're learning or what you're interacting with in a different way. So I took that product requirement document and gave it to Claude and told it, create an implementation plan for me. You have this PRD, make a plan that another AI agent can execute on. And the final step, I then gave V0. So V0 is another app. I'll share these resources at the end of the presentation. V0 is a coding agent that allows you to generate generate products from ideas. I gave it to V0 to generate the code and deploy it on Vercel. If you're not familiar with the concept of deploying something, we're using Google Meet now. Google Meet has been deployed somewhere, so I can use it from here. So Daniel can use it from wherever he is, so we can all have access to it. And I switched between Claude and Gemini CLI in implementing different parts of the implementation plan. So I would recommend Gemini, Vercel, V0, but I can talk through a lot of them later on, or you can ask specific questions. The final example I'll give is one that I did last December. And this was an AI second brain tool that I wanted to make just to see if I could make something that quick. I was with my mom watching a movie and I said, you know what, I've been talking about having an AI second brain. I've been talking about like having something I could talk to that would then hear what I'm saying, note it down and talk to me about it, because I tend to record voice notes a lot and actually use that to put in Notebook LM to see what I'm thinking. So I wanted to build something for that. And this is a little aside, this is connected to a trend of people making personal apps, right? So you could have something that you want to build for your life. You could have something you want in your own life, and you can actually build it. And that could be a nice first project for you to work on if you've never built something before. So this took me 2 hours, and I literally sat down. I wrote a few prompts to Claude. I said, this is the pattern I do. I usually record a voice note, and then I tell it to tell me what I'm thinking or to interact with me. Here's what I want it to look like. Can you build something? And in a few minutes, it had built this. And it's not the most beautiful app. This was literally 2 hours without any thinking, but it was showing that the technology had gotten so good that I could sit down and work with parts of technology that I hadn't interacted with before. I could put voice recording. I could use a vector database. A vector database just stores similar vectors, which makes you know that a man and a woman are similar in the same way a female dog and a male dog are similar. The closeness is what is stored in vectors, closeness in relationship. These 3 products helped me realize that there's now more to building than coding. And that's what AI has done. It has freed us up so that we can realize, hey, I don't have to spend so much time on one part of the stack. There's so much more. So let's say I had only 100 days to work on any given project. For Agentic, the first one, I would have spent 50 days ideating. That is doing the research, wireframing, going on Reddit, all those things would have taken about 50 days. And the rest was me on the initial build, on that initial front-end engineering. And I never got it done. The second one, inspection reports, I was able to get ideation done in, let's say, 10 days because I already knew what needed to be built. I had spoken to somebody about it. The initial build was overnight, so that was over and done. And the refinement took a bit of time because this is where you say, is this good enough? Is this solving the user's problem? That's where there's a bit of not back and forth between me and the agent, but back and forth between me and the user. So now you see that building is not just writing software. Building is building something that works for somebody. So now you're in this refining stage. And after that, there was getting it to the customer. So now you've built something that works. Okay, good. Is anybody using it? This is where you start experiencing things like marketing, distribution. How do I get this to people? It's why you see sometimes if a phone brand wants to launch in Nigeria, they'll get somebody to go and start dancing on the road. That is marketing, because you can have a cheap, well-designed phone, but if nobody knows about it, it will die in the factory. And finally, AI second brain, where ideation literally took, I won't even say a day. It was just me saying, I've been asking for this for a while. Let me try and build it. The initial build, again, I was watching a movie, typing, and I had an app. But the part that took the most time was refinement, because I had to say, okay, I have this first version. Does this actually work for? Yeah, it is the hardest part. I'll get to that. Where was I? Refining, because you can build something quickly, but you need to know, is this solving the problem? Is this what I want to exist? So what has changed in building? 2 things. There's been a role shift and there has been a mindset shift. The first shift, the role shift, is that we are no longer just executors. We've moved from execution to orchestration. And execution is when we had to write code manually for everything or hire somebody to write the code. So obviously your ability to build was constrained by your time, your money, your ability to execute, like your skills. But now we're orchestrators, and I want you to really think about this as being the CEO that directs resources towards something existing. So you can orchestrate different parts of building a product, like the research, the ideation, the design, and you can make this as AI assisted or not as possible. The thing I need you to know is you can also choose to say, I want to do this by myself manually, but having the perspective of a CEO coordinating things can help you know when to bring in a tool to make you more effective. Secondly, the mindset shift. We can use AI to extend our abilities, to speed up the process of building, and to create things that would have required entire teams years ago. And if you look at it in this way, you'll realize it's not a replacement for your skills. It is not replacing you, but it's an enhancement. And there are so many parts of building, so many points from ideation to execution to distribution that can be accelerated with this technology. So this shift, this perspective, mindset, and role shift made me then have this way of building that I call spec-driven development. And the major thing I want to lead with is that you should not just vibe code. The reason for that is, well, first of all, the AI companies want you to vibe code because it means they make more money. Vibe coding treats the prompt. So a prompt is the message you send to an AI agent to do something. It treats the prompt as the unit of a build session. It's you saying, I want an app that I can talk to and tell my thoughts and it will talk back to me. And you send that. In that contains so many assumptions that agent will make and will give you something and you will say, oh, but I don't want it this way. I want it in this other way. So now you're going back and forth and you're spending more money, you're spending more tokens, and you might not actually get what you're trying to achieve. Vibe coding is an okay way of approaching building if what you want to do is explore. If you actually want to say, well, I don't really know what I want to build, but I'd like to try building something, that's a good approach. But it's important to know that it won't be as targeted as spec-driven development, where you come to the AI agent saying, this is what I'm building, because you have done that ideation, you have decided what should exist, and now you're telling it, make this exist. So spec-driven development treats the spec as the unit of a build session. And through this, you have to have your clarity and intention about what you want to build. And this is useful if you're trying to achieve a particular thing. So more technically, what is spec-driven development, right? Here you agree on the specifications, and this is you agreeing on what you're building up front and then giving it to the AI to execute. So the thing here is you have to have the perspective that the technology, the execution is just bridging an idea, so something in your head, to reality. And the spec can help make sure that that idea is as close to reality as possible. Now, this is the difference between you wasting hours of time going back and forth saying, this isn't what I wanted, change this, and you having something that's as close to what you want as possible in the shortest amount of time. We used this paradigm actually during a hackathon I hosted a few weeks ago called Build Sessions. And funnily enough, Daniel was my teammate. So I'm going to be using a few examples from the building that we did on that day. So what are the steps of this spec-driven development workflow? First, ideation. Right? You're taking an idea to reality. So you need to answer 4 questions before you write a line of code. Always have that in mind. You need clarity. First, what is it you're building? The second one, who is it for? Third one, what are you building for your MVP? So what is that thing that shows this is valuable at the baseline, not without all the excess that you would say this would be nice to have and this would be nice to have. If you're building a voice journaling app, your MVP would just be being able to speak into a recorder and have it create a journal entry. So what are you building for that? And the next thing is, what are you not building? Because that helps you prevent the AI agent or even yourself from getting too ambitious with your original build when you can start targeted and then build it up. Right. So this is going to be a little aside on choosing the right idea for your skill set. Do not just ask, is this a good idea? It's easy to say, is this a good idea? Oh, I have a good idea. Go beyond that and say, is this the right idea with the skills and resources I have access to? Because different ideas have different challenges. And that's something you need to recognize, because if not, you will be signing up for something you don't fully understand. So building, if you go back to the definition of building, it's creating something for somebody who will find value in it. Different people, different industries require different things. Some ideas will require a team, and some ideas will require funding. You can choose to build an idea that is at the level of the resources that you have now. And upon executing that, you can now say, okay, I've done this, let's go for something bigger. That's one perspective. But you could also say, actually, I want to go for this big idea that will require me to meet somebody who is in this industry, who knows what we need to build, get some funding, get a team, and go after that. You can do either. So it's not about saying one way is better than the other. It's not about saying you should scope your dreams down to the level of your resources. It's just about saying recognize what you are getting yourself into when building, and this is part of ideation. So let's look at a few ideas that Daniel and I looked at when we were building. So you can think about how to discern what sort of thing you want to build at a point in time. Now, the constraint is that we were building at a hackathon. It was just the two of us, and we needed to have a demo by the end of the day. So the first one was idea A. It was a trendy idea, but it didn't have a moat. A moat is essentially what would defend your idea from being copied by other people. So it was an interesting technical challenge. It was an AI workflow product, but because it was an AI workflow product, it meant that anybody could copy it. Anybody who had access to Claude, Gemini could simply say, I want a workflow that does this. So we decided not to work on it because it was an AI workflow product. The second one was a really interesting investment management product that would help investment managers work with, help family offices with the operations. We did some research, and the first thing I noticed was that there were so many companies that did the exact same thing. And there's something I've realized: you don't need to compete. You should try to create your own industry, right? So seeing that actually showed, okay, this is a good industry, but if the market is too competitive, you might spend a lot more time undercutting your competitors instead of actually creating innovation. Apart from that, there was a lot of jargon that meant we needed the industry expertise to build this. So if we didn't have that, we would be building hypothetical solutions. So we decided to pause that for another time. It's not that we can't build it, but we would need the right team and extensive research to build it. Ideas C and D were the same idea, were similar ideas with the same problem. They were software wrappers over an operations business. And what that means is that something like WeWork, for example, WeWork was it was supposed to be a software business that allowed people to work wherever, so like flexible offices, but it wasn't a software business. Software is just the code that's been created, but that business was actually an operations business. It was physical real estate that they had, and they had an app to go with it. Those types of problems or ideas are very seductive because you think, oh, why don't we just have a platform that matches people like this, that gives people these things? Even Uber is, in a sense, an operations business now, which is why they have so many companies all around, and they pay a lot of money to people who are doing support or organizing the business. So the winner of the idea, or the winner that we chose, was actually an idea that we dismissed at first because it felt too simple. And that's something I want you to also consider, that sometimes the ideas that seem too simple they seem that way because you are well positioned to build them. You are familiar with the product, the idea, you know ways of solving them. So when we came to this idea, I had one perspective, Daniel had another perspective. We brought it together and we decided, okay, this is what we're going to build. Some useful filters before you choose an idea. 1, do I understand this product, this problem from lived experience? 2, can I test it quickly and cheaply? And 3, can I demonstrate the core value without needing a lot of setup? Now, answering yes or no to any of these does not mean build or don't build. It just means that you should know what you're getting into. If you can't test something quickly and cheaply, then you might need to raise funds for it. If you're excited to do that, then great, this is the right idea for you. But if you're not excited to start fundraising, because that's an entirely different ballgame compared to building, then you might want to stick to things that you can quickly build and verify. Do you understand the problem from your own lived experience? If you don't, you might need to get a co-founder who would be able to say, hey, I have this experience, or you might need to do research. And finally, can I demonstrate the core value without needing a lot of setup? This is an example of the operations business. If you're building, somebody in Nigeria is building along, so it essentially is building infrastructure for transport in Nigeria. And they are partnering with, let's say, motorways, buses, cars to allow people to use those cars as the cars that are on the Along app. You can't have the app if you don't have the cars. So you can't really test this quickly unless you have all that set up. If that's something that is part of the idea you have, you need to be aware of it. So that's all step one, ideation. Step two is a little bit technical, but stay with me. You need to design your ontology and your data model. But the ontology is just the shared language of your product. It's the names and the concepts that allow you to talk about what you're building, right? So with Chowdeck, I believe everybody here knows Chowdeck. So the way you talk about Chowdeck is that you're building an app and you have users. So I could be a user who places orders. So a user places an order and these restaurants receive these orders for specific meals. And riders can deliver orders to users' addresses. Now, this is the ontology. This is the way you talk about the app. And this allows you to, one, have clarity over what you're building. But two, you'll be able to give this logic, this thing you're building to an AI agent, and it would understand, okay, these are all the data relationships inside this idea, and this would help it to build in a targeted way. So from this ontology, and even if you're not technical, even if you haven't worked with a database before, just having this, the concepts that you need for your idea can help you to communicate to an AI agent what you want to build. The third step is once you have your idea, you have your ontology, you've described what happens. So I have an app that the users can place orders with restaurants. The users can choose different meals to be in their orders. Then you can use that to write a PRD, a product requirement document. And you can use Claude, you can use Gemini, you can use any of the chat agents to actually write out this PRD. And a good requirements document allows you to give an agent to create an implementation plan, which will make building straightforward. So step 4 is, and I tend to do this myself with an agent, but you can also decide to do it yourself entirely by yourself or give it to an agent. You take the document that says, this is what I'm building, and you give it to an agent that says, and say, create an implementation plan. And this helps you break up what you're building into pieces that you can say, okay, this part is done, that part is done. For Daniel and I, it looked like us saying, we're going to split this front end, back end. You'll do research on design, I'll do research on logic, and we can come back together and have an implementation plan that will be built at once. And that was step 5, where the thinking is done. You have your ontology, you have your data model, you have your implementation plan. You now give this to the agent and you tell it to execute. So at this point, your job is now to provide oversight. You need to look at what's happening, what it has built. Is it on course? You need to clarify any questions and assumptions. And if there's anything you need to correct, you can do it at this stage. I hear a question. Daniel, do you think I should take questions now?
Yeah, sure, you're running a show.
Okay. Yes, I'll take one from Famous.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, Famous.
Yes, sir. I hope everyone can hear me clearly.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, Kochi, for your presentation. It's quite awesome. Um, from everything you said, I've learned a lot. You know, personally, I'm also a software engineer. Graduated from ELS Africa 20, 2025. That was last year, thereabout. So it's quite awesome. And I think, look at the question. Should I go straight to the question or let me give a background first?
Yeah, the question would help.
Okay. I believe you are speaking from a point of view that, okay, you're a software engineer. I understand you have given the background on the, prompt engineering and all of that. The reason why I want to ask is, okay, this is not like a question directly, but this is just an addition to what you've said so far. I think it is quite important and crucial that everyone, especially in a country like Nigeria or Africa as a whole, that it is very necessary, despite the fact that we are in the age of AI, that everyone should have at least basic knowledge of programming if you want to build something.
Yeah.
Now, from now that will reach AGIs, because
Yeah.
that basic knowledge, that basic knowledge will help you a lot. You can even be a very good prompt engineer if you are not an engineer in the first place.
Yeah.
Unless you have to learn it from another person that is already an engineer. So,
Okay. Thank you for that input. That's actually something I'm coming to around the end, but thanks. So yeah.
all right,
I
all right.
think that's a
I'll
good.
take it. Thank you.
Thank you, Famous. So I'm going to go back to the presentation now. We've shown the steps of spec-driven development, and I'd like to say that in this paradigm, when you're working with AI, you are going to constantly be switching between two modes. One is collaborator. This is when you are working with the AI to generate your ideas, to brainstorm what you want to build, to explore and refine. This is where you're exploring, you're ideating. And you switch into the executor mode where you have clarity about what you're trying to build. And you say, take this idea and execute it. So it's important to know when you're in one of the two modes and to stay in one until you need to move into another, right? Similar to what Famous said, actually, you can use AI in a collaborator mode to teach yourself how to code. I learned how to code around the age when ChatGPT first came out, when you had ChatGPT and you had, I forget the name, there was the image generating model that DALL-E, I think that was DALL-E a few years ago, 2022 or 2023. And this is because AI can explain things in intuitive ways. It was helpful for getting understandings. So in collaboration mode, you can actually say, as I'm exploring, let me get some context that helps me to understand better what's happening in execution. So now at this point, you might be excited and you might think, okay, I want to get some ideas to build. I want to work on some stuff. Where can I get some ideas? And the first thing to note is that the best ideas are sometimes just right in front of you. What do you want to be built? What do you need for yourself? An example, I have 3 examples for this. The first one is Kolo by Jeremiah. If you were on the call, I think last week, Jeremiah was giving a talk about the personal software he built to answer the question of how many trips in a year he could take. Now, a few years ago, this sort of software would have taken a whole team of people to build this out because it has features like categorizing your transaction, and it has AI chats that allows you to, in a sense, talk to somebody about your finances. But he wanted to experience his personal finance in a particular way, and he built something for that. Another example is Dweller. Now, the founder of Dweller wanted software that allowed him to better manage the property that he had. So he decided to build property that allowed him to reach out to his tenants, to schedule maintenance from his phone, and to collect rent all in one platform. He's currently building this in Abuja and has launched pilots in the UK and in Nigeria. And finally, Caribou Devotional. The builder of this wanted an app that allowed him to have devotionals that helped him on his spiritual journey. And he knew what he wanted it to look like. So he used AI to build this, right? So a lot of the time, the ideas that you're looking for are just things that you want in your daily lives. And these are the great ideas these are the ideas that are easy to test because you know what good looks like. You know what solves your own problem. Apart from that, if you say, well, I don't really want to do any of these, I want to go after something exciting, I want to go after something that will fund me, then you can go to some places I recommend, which are all the venture capital firms or the accelerators usually put out things they want people to build. An example is YC, so Y Combinator. They usually put out a request for startups. So if you go there, you get to see, this is what they're thinking of. Let me do some research. Let me get a team of people. Let's build this. Let's apply to YC for this. This could be something you do. Another thing is A16Z's newsletter, where they put out big ideas for the year. This is where you could sit and read and say, okay, maybe this is something I want to look at. Maybe this is another idea I could be excited by. Here are some resources for coding if you want to build something. V0.app. I recommend this because you own the code. they have a really good free tier. So here it's similar to vibe coding, only if you send a single message to vibe code. I would recommend you actually have an implementation plan or a PRD if you're working with V0, because it has a great free tier, but you will quickly waste it if you're not clear about what you're building. The second thing I recommend is Claude. And Claude is actually quite, it's quite sophisticated in the way it thinks. I use ChatGPT sometimes. It depends on what I'm trying to do, but I tend to use Claude in my day-to-day. So I'd recommend them. They have a pretty generous free tier, and you can learn a few things using Claude. I also recommend going to their blog. So somewhere in the GIF, you'll see me go to the blog to check out what they have there. But I recommend it because you can read what these AI research labs are thinking about building with AI and how you yourself can better build with it. If you're looking for inspiration on how to design what you're building, let's say you're looking for components. So components are like units of units that you can interact with on a particular product. So the screen you're looking at now is a component. My face in the little bar is a component. If you need pieces of your app when you're designing what the user sees, you can come here and get inspiration for that. I like this because you get to see a lot that could inspire you, and you can mix and match and combine things. So coming towards the end, what next for you? I split this into 3: explore, build, and connect and share. First, explore how AI is positively impacting the world beyond just coding, right? This could look like genome sequencing. We have the ability to predict how proteins fold, which is really great for health, which is really great for medicine. So that's one application of AI that's not just software engineering. Look at the other things that it has allowed us to do. The reason why I suggest this is so that you start expanding your mind on what is possible, on what people are thinking about building, and you feel like, oh wait, I could go after that. Because honestly, they don't have 2 heads. It's just an awareness and a desire to build, and that's what we want you to have. The second one is build. YPIT is hosting a hackathon, and I genuinely encourage you to participate. Even if you think you won't be able to finish it, just having this group of people who are all building, who are all excited, you might get paired with somebody who also wants to build, will get you excited to say, I want to learn how to build. Okay, I don't know how to code. I'm probably paired with someone who can, and I can learn how to code. I think the best motivation for learning how to code is having something you want to build. It's not memorizing code, memorizing syntax. It's saying, I'm trying to build this. How do I do this? A little hint is that the creator of Dweller did not know how to code, did not study software engineering, actually studied international relations, but learned how to code using AI and himself so that he could build Dweller. So this is not something that's out of reach for anyone on this call who didn't study anything technical. As you build, tinker and explore. Build little projects, build things that you start and you don't finish. Just get building, because that puts you in the mindset of a builder. And finally, connect and share. Go for meetups. Talk to people about what you're building. Share what you're building and learn what they're building. With great power comes great responsibility. You now have
Oh, did we lose Nkechi? I thought it might have been my network. Looks like we.
Yeah,
Okay,
we lost
yeah.
her.
Okay, yeah, we lost her. Looks like she was at the end. With great power comes great responsibility. Maybe she was saying that now that you have ChatGPT, be careful about what the things that you build. I'm assuming that's where it was going to go. But I will. I'm sure she will notice at some point and then join back in. But I don't know for anyone else. Me, I've had such a great session so far. I'm really struggling to think which one, which one has been impactful between this and the last 3 that we've had.
I think I'm back.
Oh, you're back. There we go. I was starting to do a spiel. Thank you for saving
Oh.
it.
I mean, it's funny because like it was actually the end of the talk, but I'll share the final slide, which is, yeah, can you see my slide? Yeah, so this is what I was saying. Everything you create is you giving an endorsement to that thing, saying you want a world where this is existing. So you need to think, if you think something should exist in the world and it isn't there, you are empowered to build it. But also, if you're using this power to build things that frankly doesn't move the needle, doesn't actually create positive impact, then that is something you now have the ability to do. You now have the ability to create negative impact. So be aware of what you're building and be aware of the sort of world you're creating when you build. So that was me. You can connect with me on this QR code, which has some information about me, what I do, and the places you can find me. Thank you. I cannot hear you. I'm going to stop.
Oh yeah, that's good. No, sorry, I was quickly capturing your QR code before you stopped sharing, so that I would put it in the group chat.
Thanks. I'm gonna stop sharing now.
Just gonna do that while. Sorry, pardon me. I'm made.
Okay, we have some questions. I'm going to open up a queue. Yes, first, so I'm going to take some questions now, Daniel.
Yes, please.
All right, Divine Wobodo.
All right, can you hear me?
I can hear.
All right, okay. I have a few questions here. My first question is, a lot of users currently are learning to do with AI. Like in my department, I see these guys and they're using AI to create apps and create workshops. But the thing is that they're not necessarily learning how the system works underneath.
Yeah.
So my question is, do you think this can create a new generation of surface level engineer? And what is your advice to how fall under category of surface level engineers? That's my first question.
That's a really good question. I'll just repeat it so everyone hears. My summary is that of your question is that a lot more people are building who don't really understand what they're building or don't understand the act of engineering. So is this going to, well, one, how can you prevent yourself from being a surface level engineer? And two, is this going to create a generation of surface level engineers? I would reframe it in this way. One, it's not really, the code has never been the point. The code, the act of engineering has never been the point. AI has made it so that it actually doesn't have to be the point, right? It made it so that people who want to build and who don't care about knowing how to write code, who don't care about being good engineers, they just want to build something. It means they can do that. Now, what that means is not really that you have a bunch of surface level engineers. It means that you have a bunch of builders who don't actually understand the underlying technicals of what they're building. And that means there will be a lot more demand for the software engineers that understand the technicals of what is being built, right? So for the software engineers who are actual software engineers or product engineers and are not fully understanding, there will to an extent be people who don't really get what they're doing because they've never had to think on that level. But it's a similar way to how we don't write assembly code. We don't write in binary, right? We write and build at a higher level of abstraction. So think of AI, building with AI as a higher level of abstraction, and there are people underneath who understand the more technical things. Now, if you want to be somebody, and this is like a general, not to you in particular, but to me, when I say when I learned how to code, AI was in existence. And I would use it to say, I remember I started with CS50. It's this free coding, course by, I think it's Harvard or Stanford, I think it's Harvard. So it's introduction to, Yeah, CS50, yeah. Introduction to Computing. And at that point in time, when I would be trying to understand something, I would tell, I think it was ChatGPT, explain this like David J. Malan, the person who runs the CS50 course. The benefit of AI now is that the people who actually want to understand, they have a teacher that will never get tired, that will explain it to them 1,000 ways, and they can actually learn it. So it's just saying, if you don't want to remain on that surface level, people have to say, I want to know more, and then use the AI to teach themselves more. They have to say, I'm not going to use AI to code this. I might ask a question, but I will type it down and learn. And this is why in the presentation, I said, you also have to know when to use it and when not to use it. If somebody says, I can just do it myself, good, you can do it yourself. And sometimes you should, so you learn. And that's when you'll be able to see the AI do something and you're like, you're wasting my time, I'll do this myself. Because there's several times I have been building with AI and I see it going in a direction and I'm like, but you can't do this. And it will say, you got me. I was doing the wrong thing. So you have to also know that. But I think in building with AI, we have to tell people that, look, if you actually want to understand, you have to use the AI to understand, and you have to try to do it yourself. We have to tell them the benefits of doing that. It's not that it's taking a lot of time or you just want to get the product. No, it's that you will understand what you're building and you'll be able to build better. Unless we can tell people that, all they will care about is having the end product without actually seeing value in understanding what they're building. Yes. And let me see. I don't see any other hands raised. Any other questions? Divine Nwobodo.
All right. My second question is, what is your advice to younger developers that are coming up and they are entering the AI era? Yes. So, what is your advice to younger developers entering this AI era?
Honestly, my advice is to build. I think the rules are changing so quickly that it's no longer just about can you understand the syntax? Do you know how to solve leet code? All those things still exist, but because AI can solve these questions, they're not as important. What you need to know how to do is how to build useful software, because that is what you want to do. Well, that is what you want to do, and you can do it whether you're working or not. That's the first mindset shift. The second one is actually, while you have your technical skills, your execution skills, know how to build with AI, you understand what you're trying to build, but how can I speed it up with AI? Because as you come into the workforce, I feel like a lot of companies are expecting more output from their engineers because they see other companies working with AI and getting more output. So actually knowing how to use this, how to leverage it to become more effective is a benefit. But the thing I recommend the most is to build. Is to say, I'm applying to jobs, I'm not getting jobs. Get an idea you're passionate about. Look for what should exist and build. When I was transitioning into tech, I didn't have any computer science degree. I didn't have any relevant work experience. So it was quite hard for companies to say, we want to take a chance on you. So what I decided to do was to start building and talking about what I was building. I started building a kitchen inventory app for me to manage my cupboard at home. And when I would meet people, I would say, this is what I built. Look at what I built. I know I didn't study computer science, but I can build. And the thing is, either way you win, because you could build something that many people use, and that gives you the skill, the expertise, and gives you the value in terms of money that allows you to live as a software engineer, or it makes the people that you want to notice you. So either way, I say the recommendation is build, because that's the thing that isn't changing for now, is what can you make now that this software is here, whether you use it or whether you don't use it. Any other question? Famous Bernard.
All right. Thank you very much, Nkechi. And,
Is it just me or are we losing famous?
It's not just you. I cannot hear famous. Okay, while we wait for famous to connect, I think that's, let me see.
Is there anyone else with questions? I think that there should be / there will be. The chat today has been so active.
Let me see.
Can't imagine anyone not having questions.
Creed Consult.
Creed Consult. First name Creed, last name Consult. Go ahead, please.
All right. Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. This was actually a good presentation. And thank you very much, Daniel, for putting all this together. I'm actually startup founder. Creed Consult is actually a startup. And while I'm actually active after the communities that I'm kind of this one, I'm not here with a question. I just noticed that you said something about the chat. And if there is a chat, I would be interested in joining. Because I've been getting through this session as well as on Jeremiah's session also. And this is the second session catching on with. And I would like to be consistent. So if there's a good chat that would be encourage my consistency of books to be important.
Okay. Did you get that, Daniel? He says if there's a
please
group chat,
Yes.
he wants to be in the group chat for consistency. I think he was there for Jeremiah. Yes, young people in tech.
There we go. Thank you, young people in tech. Any other questions while I try and find that? No questions?
Yes, I do. Well,
Okay, Farouk.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So right, my question, or should I just do a little bit of intro? Right, I'm Farouk. I run an ed tech. Basically, what we do is we turn curriculum and content into games for kids. Right. So you mentioned something regarding testing products, right? When you've like gotten the product, you've gotten some sort of MVP or maybe like a mini MVP, right? So how do you then get it to users? Meaning you like have to like start going or talking to people that have that kind of how do I put it now? Ideal profile, I guess.
Yeah, it honestly depends on the type of product you're building, right? So for me, what it looked like was saying, let's say, yes, you're the contractor I spoke with. Yesterday, I spoke with you about the problem. Overnight, I built it. The next day, I sent it to him and said, hey, does this work? So that was my first experience with getting a product I built to the users. The next step for that would have been me saying, okay, this is a product for contractors. Where are the contractors? Where can I find them? So what I did, I created accounts on the places here. So some communities tend to have websites or group chats where people can ask for help. Say my dog is missing, I'm looking for a cleaner. So I went on there and started looking for all the contractors to start messaging, started posting there saying, I have this product that you can use for XYZ, you can use to create your inspection reports. Another step from that could be me going to physically visit. So I Google all the pest control companies and I go visit them. And I tell them, hey, I built this thing. You might want to try it out. So it's really finding out who is your user and what's the best way to get to them. For me, at first, that was just sending it to the person who told me they have this problem. But the step forward would have been doing research on where these people are, maybe putting out ads, maybe going to them in person, and maybe just being in the strategic places that they would already be, like the communities where people ask for services. So for your gaming app, you say you turn games into
curriculum, so edtech, more or less. Cross into gaming as well. So
yeah.
So gamified learning.
So
gamified learning, exactly.
You gamify learning, and I'm going to assume that this is for kids.
Yes, it's primary school kids, 6 to 12.
So if this is something that you want people to pay for, you would need to go to the parents. Where are the parents congregating around things that could help them teach their children? So this could be Facebook pages, right? Facebook pages where people are like, oh, how are you teaching your child this? Here's what my 6-year-old just did. Go on there and say, hey guys, I built this, or just pretend to be a parent and say, yeah, YouTube Kids could be a good one, but the people on YouTube Kids are children. They don't have the wallet. You need to get to the parent who is actually thinking about how they can make that kid learn. So that's
find them in your churches and
find them in your churches. Go to the basis
the parents they want their kids to succeed.
Yeah. So you can find creative ways to go after it, but it just depends on who the user is and who the person holding the money is. It's like how with AI, the AI companies are selling to the developers, because then we can tell our companies, oh, we need this to do our job. But some other types of software, the people you're selling to has to be the CEO, because the CEO will approve the money. So that I would suggest you find the parents, go to where the parents are.
Yes. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome. Creed Consult. Tax buyer advisor. I'm assuming you do tax consultancy. Creed Consult, I can't hear you. But
Oh, my hand's still up. No, I got me the links. You said they're ready for the group.
Did you get that, Nkechi? I didn't. So
so you said send the link to the group.
Okay,
No,
yes, we will.
You already sent it. I've sent it.
Yeah, it's a young people in tech. And yes, Farouk, you will need to open your Facebook. Go to Facebook, go to the churches, go to the look for where birthday parties are, but don't be a creep. If you see children's birthday parties, maybe like can put flyers, places that they have halls, just be creative without being a creep.
Can we buy bunny costume?
Yeah. When they come to stand with you, be like, call your parents. Where's your dad? Like that. But yeah, I think that feels like the end of the questions, Daniel. Over to you.
Okay, amazing. Yes. Sorry, I don't even know where to start from. This session has been extremely useful, / inspiring. But I will let Toby do a quick, I guess, insert a quick piece of information session here. So, Toby, over to you, please.
Oh, I didn't say I was going to speak, though. I just wanted to share my screen while you speak. But it's calm.
Yeah, it works as well. Oh, yes, amazing. So Toby is putting Nkechi on the spot a little bit here. I don't know if you can see, but so this image is at YPIT London event, our first event in London, and Nkechi was there. The reason why this might be relevant is that, fun fact, Nkechi and I met at the networking event almost 3 years ago now. Is it over 2 years ago? And as you met at a networking event, and just the idea that, like she said as well, share and connect. Everyone should please keep putting yourselves out there. Please keep stepping out of your comfort zone. Since we met 2 years ago, we have worked on a lot of things together. The hackathon from like 2 weeks ago was just one of many, and that's how I think you find equally curious people, equally interesting people that you're like, oh, this is what I'm working on. Do you want to take a look? This is what I'm working on. Do you have an opinion, etc., etc. So for the next 2-3 minutes, if people are so willing, if you're interested, please go ahead, like Beatrice does did, and put in your LinkedIn links, I guess, in the group chat. It is it's relevant. I think another opportunity to connect would also be the YPIT hackathon that's happening in a few weeks. People have we've mentioned multiple times through this session, and Nkechi did as well, which was actually unplanned. But the idea that building things with people, whether or not the things work, is a great bonding experience. You know, the person that I would call my closest friend today is my closest friend because we started, you know, a business together. And you know, the same applies everywhere else. Building is a great way to connect. More importantly, it's a great way to actually learn and try your hands out at things. I'm a big lover of, you know, just going out there and trying new things with new people. Hackathons are a very good example of that. You never know what you find. You never know, you know, how it will happen. The Young People in Tech Hackathon, the link is in the chat if you want to take a look. Please take a look. It's virtual and in person as well in Lagos. So we'll make provisions for people to show up in person and just vibe together, build together if you want to in Lagos. But if you're not in Lagos, which many people are not, that's also perfectly fine because you can have, you know, the same experience online. You can, you know, join a group chat, build with people, form a group, walk through all of it. Where's the chat? Israel, please post the chat thing again. It will get lost in between all the LinkedIn links, but look for it. Please pay attention if you're so inclined. And I guess the last thing also to talk about is the conference happening in a few weeks or in a month, just over a month, on the 13th of June. A conference is a great place to come, and two things always happen. One, you see how much you see a lot of ambitious people, a lot of impressive people, and you live there, your body is literally shaking with ginger. Happens every time you go to the right kind of conference. That's the kind of conference that we're building. And then the second thing that happens is also put you out of your comfort zone in the exact same way I've mentioned before. You know, over the years, 3-4 years now, YPIT we always have a series of events. People show up, they meet, bonds are formed. People have found their co-founders at YPIT events. That's the thing that happens. People have found, you know, they're very good friends at YPIT events. That's the thing that happens. It's the same thing that happens at conferences. There will be a lot of practitioners, AI practitioners, talking about, you know, building in AI, building with AI, how the industry is changing. You will leave a much better person than you come. So please, 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 you know, take the liberty to also get the conference tickets. I think right now it's on early bird, so 50% off. It will be off early bird in a bit, so that will also happen. I think that's the summary of information, so to speak. But before we can't even wrap up, not nearly, without just appreciating the quality of content that we've just gotten from Nkechi. This has been an amazing session so far. For people that have asked in the chat over time, yes, there will be a recording. There is a recording of the session that will be shared with you. So if you're signed up to the AF calendar, you will receive you know, recordings from the first, second, third session before Nkechi session. Nkechi session will also edit it and put it out there. Same with the slides and materials. So event is happening in Lagos at the Civic Center, famous. Same with the resources that the slides and everything, the resources that she's pointed to today. We are actually collating so much of these resources. People are sharing prompts, all the websites, the tools and tricks, how they give their agents context, how they build in co-ways. If anyone was at Jerry's session last week, Jerry sent me a, you know, 20-page PDF of all the coolest ways that you can actually become a builder. That is coming to your inbox very soon. Keep an eye out. Same thing with Nkechi's session. We'll collect all of it and share with the group as well. And that'll be amazing. So there's also this, like I mentioned at the start of this session is the, I think, number 4 of 8 sessions. So there are many more like this happening. We've had, you know, someone come and talk about personalized software, which Nkechi also talked about. We've had people talk about personal workflows, MCPs. And if you've been at every one of these, what you notice is how they tie into each other, how they ladder up. It seems like each one is pushing you just one step closer to actually becoming, you know, an AI person, AI build. You'll be surprised at how much can change when you listen to this session. So when they're available, please go out and watch the videos if you need to again and again. The resources will also be there for you to interact with. And then also sign up to the calendar. The calendar is on Luma. Signing up to the calendar means every time the next workshop goes live, you will see it. So there's one happening next Thursday. on AI agents. You might have been hearing agents all about. There's a founder that's very close to the YPIT community. Is talking us through AI agents, and it's a hands-on session as well. He'll be showing us how to build some AI agents. That should be fun. And then right after that, there's a session I'm very excited about, which is about data curation. When we talk about AI, people almost never talk about data, but there's this idea that ChatGPT will one day speak Yoruba and one day speak, Itsekiri very fluently. But in order to do it, it needs to know, it needs to know what Itsekiri stories sound like, what that data looks like. And because as Africans, we don't have all those stories, being collected, there's a fun group of people that have been working on the idea of data creation for African languages, and they'll be having a session. I think that one's not a hands-on session, but it's one of the most exciting ones I think that we have in the lineup. Similarly, there are others in the lineup. Keep an eye on that calendar. Just so everyone knows, this is the end of today's session. So just one more opportunity for us to say thank you to Nkechi. Sending hearts and cheers and all of that. And thanks everyone for joining. Really appreciate your presence here. We do not take it for granted. And have a lovely rest of your Thursday evening. Bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.